Thank you very much. Hello, everyone. My name is Porfirio Chavarria with the City of Santa Fe Fire Department. I'm the Wildland-Urban Interface Specialist, which is a long way of saying that I help homeowners with to protect their property and their lives from the threat from wildfire. Also help people to understand fire a little better and give them the information they need to make good choices in the event that fire is threatening your home, and so you can be as prepared as to the best of your ability as you can, and be able to do some critical thinking and make some decisions that you may have to make in the event we have a large wildfire here in Santa Fe. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and share some slides with you. Hopefully that's displaying for you and you can see that.
Yeah, it looks good.
Let's see, I'll put it in presentation mode and see if that makes it any better. All right. Yeah, please let me know at any time. If you have questions, please raise your hand and please feel free to interrupt me. I'm more than willing to go down any questions that we have. Really, I want folks to get prepared. Here's how to prepare for wildfire season. You can become a fire shade ambassador. You can become FireWise. Here's a great map of Santa Fe. And you can kind of see my cursor around in here. So I'm located at Fire Station 1, which is downtown right here in near Fort Marcy. And as you can see, this kind of line here, that's Bishop's Lodge Road, there's Sierra del Norte. This line right here that I'm kind of tracing, that's Hyde Park Road that goes up to the ski basin. And you can see the majority of our danger areas are on the east side of the city and then up to the north, up by the Opera. And those are where I'm really concerned that if there was a wildfire there, that it would burn really intensely and we may have quite a few losses in there. Interesting enough, the majority of our fire start in this South Santa Fe, Tierra Contento, where it's where the fire danger is green, just a lot lighter fuels, more grasses. There's a whole lot more roads, a lot of pavement, a lot of concrete out there. We get starts out there quite frequently, but they don't get very big. But that doesn't mean that something small can get into your home. And I'm going to kind of give you some information on what you can do to look around your property to be sure that it doesn't start on fire. So really, this looks like, pretty typical Santa Fe. You got some patio cushions there. You got a wood pile there next to your house. The issue here is that if there were embers that were coming from a wildfire, and these embers can be lofted in the air half a mile and a half ahead of the main fire. And we're looking at embers anywhere from the size of like a pea or all the way up to maybe the size of your fist. Thinking like pine cones off a ponderosa pine tree or a pinon tree, floating up in the air and then landing on these cushions and then starting that on fire, landing on the wood pile and then starting that on fire. So you may want to move those away. I certainly like being out on the patio in the summertime when it's hot and dry. Just knowing that, hey, maybe if I'm not going to be home, maybe I can take those inside or store those somewhere so that they're less susceptible to embers. And the wood pile, certainly move that away. Wherever you want a bonfire, that's probably the best place to stack your wood. And we have some, trees and things like that and vines that are on the overhangs of portals. That's certainly a place where fire can, crawl up that tree and start that portal on fire, and then starting the house on fire. Here's a whole host of different things to look at. There's up here on the top of the picture, there's a gutter. It looks like it's got some old needles and leaves. Certainly a place for embers to catch on fire. You got this big deck area underneath. You want to take a look underneath your deck. Be sure you're not storing old construction lumber or any other kind of flammable materials under there that could get started from an ember. Then you've got some wood pile next to it. And then you just have all this, leaf litter, and other, flammable materials there, and you want to be aware of those, because really the fire is going to lead up to your house. Either the flames are going to burn directly up to the home and then start the home on fire. More than likely, the embers are going to fall all around the house. What do they start on fire? If they start whatever that is, like a wood pile on fire, is that going to start your house on fire? Here's some electrical boxes and other things to consider. Not very many in the city, but there are some propane tanks to think about as well. You want to give them some clearance, maybe even put some gravel around them so that they're not impacted by direct flames, and the amount of heat that's around them gets reduced. Here's some decking and some other things to think about where, if this tree was on fire, it possibly could start the deck on fire, which if it's attached to the house, it's certainly going to start the house on fire. Now we have a whole host of resources here in the city of Santa Fe. The biggest thing that we've been using is Ready, Set, Go. Helps homeowners like yourselves get ready for evacuations and what you need to do and coming up with a plan. The best thing to do is to think about that stuff right now. If you had to evacuate, what would you take with you? Those important papers, important photos, hard drives, your phone. What are the things that are necessary and important to you that you'd want to have? And start developing a kit that you can put by the door that has all the things that you want to take with you, as well as probably a list of other things that maybe you use all the time and you don't want to forget. So you're not going to put those in a box or in a kit, or maybe they're too large for like a Tupperware box or something. And you want to have that list ready so that, okay, I'm evacuating, I'm going to go down this list. It helps you to focus as well on your list to get all the things that you need, everything that you need to do before you leave, and put that stuff in your car and get out. In most cases, we're going to send evacuation alerts through Alert Santa Fe. So I encourage you to get Alert Santa Fe and sign up. You can just Google Alert Santa Fe and you will find the website. You can go to alert.santafenm.gov and it will take you directly to the website to sign in. Alert Santa Fe is a smart 911 system, which means that you can put information in there that's beyond just wildfire. Any kind of emergency alert that you want, some medical emergencies, you can let them know that maybe you have a gate or some other interesting facets on how to get to your property. The reason for all this information is you can put that in there, and when you call 911, the dispatcher pulls up your information and they can relay that to first responders for whatever your emergency may be. Now, here's some resources from the department, and I have a separate slide, so I'm going to stop sharing, but we do property hazard assessments, mitigation agreements, green waste pickups, community planning, and our Fire Shed Ambassador program. I'm going to switch shares here real quick. Maybe you didn't like me doing that. Let's see here. I apologize. I'm looking for my presentation and not finding it. Help me out here. You're seeing a red screen with my PowerPoint? Says
yeah, it says City of Santa Fe Wildfire Mitigation Programs.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Well, like I was saying earlier, thank you. Home and property hazard assessments, mitigation agreements, green waste pickups, Fire Shed Ambassador program. So our hazard assessments, our crews or myself will go out to your property and walk the property with you. We'll make recommendations, point things out around the house. We really look at the overall site, what your house is made out of, and point out things that you can do on your house. And then we look at the vegetation and everything else around it and give recommendations there. And then we also, our hazard assessments also factor in just your community at large. So that map I showed earlier of where our high hazard areas are, that also goes into the rating. And those are based on, do you have hydrants? How many access roads do you have to your community? Is it one way in, one way out? What's the common vegetation out there? Are there any special hazards out there, like maybe you have to go north up towards into the mountains and then come back out, or whatever the situation may be. And we have mitigation agreements. So let's say I go out and do a hazard assessment and you say, well, wow, I'd really like to get this done, but I don't have the expertise or maybe the time to be able to go out and cut my vegetation. Well, you can come into an agreement with the city fire department. We have a labor share program, which means we'll do half the work and you do the other half. And our half is basically cutting the trees in that defensible space zone. And we'll cut it into manageable lengths so somebody else can come and take it away. So basically all we'll do is cut the trees, and then it's on you to get that material offsite. Or you can chip it, or haul it to the transfer station, or loan it out to friends, whatever you may want to do with it. I just recommend that you get it off the site, because it, once we do cut that up, it does actually increase the fire danger for a short time while that material is still on the ground. And then we have we have curbside pickups for green waste during the months of October and May. That's the first full week, so we're already kind of past that for this May, and most likely we'll be beginning again in October. And this is natural vegetation, mostly tree branches, 10 inches in diameter. We can up to 10 feet long. We prefer smaller, but as you can see, this is our grapple truck that comes and picks it up, and it's pretty hardy. It can pick up quite a big amount of pieces and haul quite a few of that green waste away. And then we have the ambassador program, which is a neighbor to neighbor network to kind of build resilience within communities that are dealing with wildfire and trying to get the knowledge and information. So basically it's a way for leaders in your neighborhood to contact me and get information on what they can do to prepare for wildfire, what they can do to prepare their neighborhood for wildfire. And we try and get them in touch with other communities across the city and even in parts of the county that want to know more about wildfire and what they can do to reduce that risk. And we really come together to try and problem solve those issues and see if we can come up with some solutions to what may be happening in your community. And this, in conclusion, these are all these programs really depend on you, the homeowner, making decisions, taking action. We're here to assist wherever we can and try and make, try and prepare you to make good decisions in the event we have a wildfire and getting ready for a wildfire. And God forbid, we'll be here for, in a recovery mode if we do have a devastating wildfire and you need that type of assistance as well. Here's my information. All those programs I talked about, the best way to get more information or in touch for them, like mitigation agreements, to schedule one, to schedule just a home assessment, or to learn more about our ambassador program, please contact me at 955-3119, or at my email address. It's pnchavarria@santafenm.gov.
Thank you so much. We do have one question. Jessica asks, how predictable is wildfire behavior?
Oh, it's really predictable. You just have to put in a few inputs and you can kind of get a sense of what it's going to be. And so wildfire behavior is dependent on three factors. You're looking at what's the topography, so the lay of the land. Is it a hill? Is it a slope? Is it flat ground? Is it really rocky? How steep is the slope if it's on a hillside? And then the other factor is, what is it burning? Is it burning chamisas? Is it burning grass? Is it burning ponderosa pine? What's the main fuel type that it's burning through? And then the third factor is, what is the weather doing? And the weather can get really complicated. Is the three main things in the weather is, how dry is it? Is the humidity really low? Is it in single digits? Or is it really high, like yesterday and maybe even parts of today? I'd say that, yesterday, certainly when it was raining, the humidity was in the 90s, if not 100%. Today, it's probably closer into the 20s or 30s. And here in the Southwest, if it's in 25 or above, fire is not going to really do a whole lot. If it's under 20, things are going to be picking up. And certainly if we're having single digit days for humidity, then it's going to really move. The other factor for weather there is the temperature. How hot is it? If you had single digit humidities, but we're in the middle of winter and it's 25 degrees outside, I don't think fire is not going to move very well. It needs that heat, needs to be generated. So how hot is it? And then lastly is the wind. How fast is the wind moving? We talked earlier a little bit, I talked a little bit about the slope and how that influences fire behavior. Typically with slope up, fire likes to burn uphill and upslope. But if you have a strong wind going downwind, or down the slope, that fire can actually move downhill pretty quickly with the aid of the wind. And that's really the effect for there. So I would say that those are kind of what influences fire behavior and how predictions can be made through that. There are fire behavior analysts out there that take all those factors and they put them into different models and work on those and figure out how fast the fire can move, how where potentially it would create some difficulties. And so those are the kind of factors that go into wildfire behavior.
Thank you. Another question is, what is the biggest issue you see that Santa Fe residents are not prepared for?
That's a really good question that I don't know if I have the best answer for. I talk to homeowners and residents a lot. Lots of them are doing really good things. I think it's maybe one thing I think that I've been really harping on is Alert Santa Fe to get those alerts. So that's the emergency management system. The emergency notification system for where alerts are going to go. When I send out an alert for, or when the emergency manager sends out an alert, I'll have to verify, but I only think there's like 15,000 people signed up in the city of Santa Fe. So 15,000 out of 80,000 residents are signed up for Alert Santa Fe. And I would say that that's maybe the one thing that could really go a long way in getting people to be prepared for wildfire, and also just any emergency if they had to evacuate or if there was an emergency situation in your neighborhood. That's what the emergency manager is going to send out notifications on. Say if there's a gas leak or something like that, maybe it's a weather related event. We get, 2 feet of snow and people are cooped up in their house or something. I know, like maybe 6 or 7 years ago, where I live, there was a big gas outage and natural gas was out in most of northern New Mexico. And so there was, like 5 days I didn't have any heat. Luckily I had a wood stove, but most people didn't.
Yeah, if I didn't have gas, I'd be totally out of luck. Yes, very smart to stay on the alerts. Christina asks, I know we have a lot of controlled burns in our area. So what is the likelihood of a mega fire in the Santa Fe area?
I think it's probably pretty high. right now. I know, there's prescribed burns that are going on in the Santa Fe area, in the city of Santa Fe, the city of Santa Fe's municipal watershed, which the municipal watershed, for the most part, everything above Upper Canyon Road there, where the city gets about 40% of its water, is about 17,000 acres. And over the last 20 years, about 7,000 acres of that, give or take, 500 acres or so, has been treated in some way with, cut and piled and then burned, and some of those areas have come back, and the Forest Service has come back through and broadcast burned some of those areas. Broadcast burn meaning that they've lit fire across the landscape and let it go through, like burning across a field. Now the other portion, the 10,000 acres, that portion is in the Pecos Wilderness and hasn't been treated. There's some plans to be able to put fire in there as a treatment, as a tool to maybe thin some of that out. It's just those conditions haven't been favorable for fire managers to be able to put fire in there. And then you may have seen earlier this spring, they burned the Pacheco project, and that's in Pacheco Canyon, which is about 5 miles north of Santa Fe or so, maybe 10. And that's in the Pacheco Canyon area, and they've done, let's see, they've done about 1,000 acres of burning there. The Medio fire last fall in August and September burned around 4,000 acres in there. So there's some protection there, but you're talking about a landscape that's roughly 100,000 acres. And we really haven't done a lot of treatment in there. And I believe the Forest Service is looking at planning on doing more treatments in there, but right now there's a lot of places in there that are really dense, really thick. And in a year like this year, where it's really dry, we haven't had a whole lot of moisture. Fortunately, we had some rain yesterday that's going to probably push back the fire season maybe for the next 5 days. But by the weekend, it's going to be hot and dry again and ready to burn. So hopefully we'll keep getting these storms. Typically, June is just hot and dry. We get, 90-degree temps, single-digit RHs, and relative humidity days. And some days, we get winds up to 20 miles an hour. And those are just a recipe for, a match getting started in that forest. Maybe it's just dragging chains from people's motorhomes or boats out there, or even, toss cigarette, or someone just driving their car and parking it over some tall grass, and just that heat from underneath the car starting the grass on fire and then moving into the forest. There's so many different things that can start a fire. And then we get, usually before we get monsoons, we get lightning. We just get a lot of lightning with not a whole lot of moisture right away. And those can start a wildfire in those same types of conditions in June. I think one thing that I wanted to mention, and I haven't yet, is red flag warnings. And so red flag warnings just mean that it's high fire danger. That's that weather factor. So when it's a red flag day, that means that the humidities are really low. They're down below 15, and the wind speeds are above 20, and the temperatures are above 80 degrees, and it's hot and dry and windy. And those are the days that people can think about, like, oh, okay, today's hot, dry, and windy. I'm going to be extra careful. Maybe that's a day that I decide to take my patio furniture inside, or some of my cushions when I'm not going to be home. Maybe that's a day that I review my checklist on my evacuation checklist to see if I have everything in place, that I know where I'm going to go meet if I had to leave, or what I'm going to do. I'm going to let people know, hey, I'm going to be gone for the day. Evacuations or wildfires don't tend to work on your schedule. We have to work around theirs. And so thinking about that kind of information, like, oh, okay, that's just another way to think, oh, that's a heads up day.
Will campfires be banned this summer?
You know, that's a Forest Service decision that they make. I would imagine that that's on its way with how dry it's been. I don't know for sure. That's something that they do. As far as what's happening in the city of Santa Fe, we've implemented fire restrictions already, which means there's no outdoor smoking on city-owned property at city parks. There shouldn't be any grilling at city parks, and some off-road like vehicles like ATVs and dirt bikes and things like that aren't allowed on city-owned property, as well as the restriction of some types of fireworks. So really only safe and sane fireworks are allowed, which are basically fireworks that don't make any noise and that don't spurt out embers beyond I think it's 10 feet high, and none of them spin. So basically the ones you can use are like those cones and smoke bombs and sparklers.
Thank you, Porfirio. It doesn't look like we have any more questions. If anyone has any other questions, feel free to ask them now or raise your hand. Thank you so much for this informative program. Always good to be prepared, and everyone should be on that alert. Can you remind us how to start that if you don't have that set up?
Yeah, basically Google Alert Santa Fe, or you can go to alert.santafenm.gov, and that will take you to the site, the registration site, to sign up. I'll put that in the chat there, and you can also reach out and contact me. I'll put my information in there as well, just so people can have it if they didn't write it down already. All right. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you. Jessica says, thanks for this helpful talk. And thanks for putting that all that information in the chat. And we'll be sure to get that to patrons if they ask any wildfire safety questions. Thanks so much, and have a great rest of your week.
You're very welcome. And you take care. Have a safe summer, everyone.
You too. Bye.